And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight. My name's Hiko Simon. I'm actually just trying something very quickly, turning on the comments on the live stage, which I just realized are probably going to obscure the, the thread I have on the right hand side of the screen. So maybe I should turn that off. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to Dan H, who I can see immediately in the comments there is actually out hiking, watching this again, just like he was during 2.5 Voyages last night. I actually didn't realize because I'm watching this show via the StreamYard interface, which doesn't show that they have these crazy party hats for everybody at the moment in the chat in YouTube, which I didn't see that last night. And apparently it's there again today, ranking people with XP and stuff like that. In fact, I should actually, I mean, part of me is like, it's kind of weird turning it into a game against everyone. But on the other hand, I must say, I'm also a little bit curious. I see that we have, I mean, honestly, if I could turn it off, I would, but I can't. I was just looking at the settings earlier. Who have we got in here? We've got Cobra Stenchi in here first. DJ Sunny Side Up in here second. Thanks to DJ Sunny Side Up again. We had another awesome MASH battle this week. Possibly awesome because I won it again. But actually, I really want to say, like the whole point, well, the main point of the MASH battles is having fun. And we are definitely doing that. But the other thing is, you know, like having the sort of having a challenge, you know, having a set of rules, 90 seconds, you know, make a mash, you know, make a full track, whatever, every week. And the first couple of weeks, I saw DJ Sunny said, first I was just doing mashes the way that I'd always done. And then I saw that he was like going ahead and he was mashing multiple tracks and I was only doing one track. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, I might not be as good if I do it, but let's up the difficulty. Let's try doing that. So, you know, we're sort of pushing each other and I'm doing tons of stuff at the moment that I was never doing before these MASH battles and stuff that I picked up from DJ Sunny Side Up. So even though I've taken the last few and even though we do have fun doing the diss videos to one another every week, I really mean it sincerely that I love what he does. I love his fans who come in and without saying voting for A or B, they say that they vote for him because, you know, he does such great work. And yeah, you've seriously gotten me to lift my game a lot. And I hope I do it a little bit back for you. Hopefully I'm going to motivate you, basically taking what you do and, you know, winning these competitions using techniques that I learned from you. And we're going to do it, you know, and hopefully you get something back. And I can't wait to see what we pull out this week. So probably when we do the after party after the show, I'm going to pick out the track for next week or sometime probably tomorrow. And we'll see how we do. But yeah, like I say, huge appreciation to DJ Sunny Setup. The other thing I'll just mention is I actually put a little bit of extra effort into the video, which just went live on Tokyo Digital Crew. I actually got the original music videos and I cut them up and I mixed them up all over the place, where I put the original Britney song, myself mashing it, and the videos that I mashed with, and I adjusted the speed and everything to make sure that the mouths and the beats and everything matched with the speed, which was basically I sped the original song up by about like 25%. So every song had its own different BPM, and I had to adjust the same as I had done on the track. When I figured it out, I could do it pretty fast, and it's a lot of fun. The video comes out really punchy, actually. It's really entertaining. So I don't normally say, go watch my video, it's awesome. But this one, I actually put a little bit of extra effort into. DJ Sunny Side Up, I'm sure you can vouch for everybody that it's pretty good. So yeah, super fun video this week. And, you know, this is why we do this. We just get a little bit better at stuff every week. That's what life is all about. So thank you for making life more interesting, DJ Sunny Side Up, and I can't wait to see you bring the fire back next week. You got to get one back against me. But that's it. I'm not going to go easy on you, man. You got to expect this is. I'm going to keep bringing it at the level that I'm bringing it. So I can't wait to see what you do. We've got Lara in third, who I think had like top or second. I think Cobra Stenchi had like top XP, and Lara had like second. So appreciate always all the support, although again I don't know what those crown thingies are. Top fan, I don't know. I mean, I suppose if are you all my top fans, or are you all my only? No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. My shirt is staying on. But there we go. Top 3 interactors in the chat. I mean, is that right? Again, I don't consider it a competition. I get it that probably when you've got like 20,000 commenters or whatever, that YouTube's trying to motivate the people that probably need the least motivation, actually. But anyway, cool to see. So great to see people trying to figure out the scores people have in the chat. We've got Sadiq, who I think also had an awesomely high score. So great to see. This is myself being surprised. What the hell is everybody wearing party hats, which are the crowns, I guess. Who knows? Who knows? We've got 16 people watching now, so I guess that we can see a ranking in there. We've got, who else we got in here? We got Black Tengu, who isn't counting, and you shouldn't count. I think that's right. We got Dan H hiking and watching the show or listening to the show, which I appreciate. Appreciate you every week, and thank you, Dan H. Great to have you with us. Hiking again. I think I pinged him back. I hope that the show doesn't attract bears. Yeah, stay hydrated. Keep the sound down. I don't know. Maybe it scares them away. Maybe I have a thing that it makes hiking safer. I certainly hope that it does, but glad that you're getting outside. It was 35 degrees here in Tokyo today. It was not a comfortable going outside. In fact, I went, I ran. Well, actually, I didn't even run today. Yesterday I ran, and as much as I decided a long time ago I didn't want to be running on treadmills ever. I want to go outside and get some sunshine and, see Tokyo and stuff like that. When I was training for the marathon in the middle of winter and it was freezing cold, I did get used to running on the treadmill at the gym, where it wasn't so cold. And now it's like 35 degrees and humid in Tokyo, and it's going to get worse. I ran on the treadmill yesterday, and it was good, like from a fitness perspective, especially now I am focusing on weights more, which I'm having a lot of fun with. I actually, I had another thought. I've created like a notepad in my Apple Notes. I always talk about Japan, but there's other topics I would like to talk about. And I'm thinking I might make a series of videos just about my journey with running. I think I've made enough terrible mistakes now that I've actually got pretty compelling stories where I've learned how to do things and what not to do. And I can illustrate the what not to do because I've done them. I'm not like a pro marathon runner. I've been watching a lot of videos of running YouTubers and through which I've learned, even this week, I learned that I've been running at the wrong BPM. You know how I always do the DJ thing, and I always say look at the BPM, and I run at about 165 BPM, which is kind of funny because the old drum and bass was 165 BPM, but new drum and bass is like 174, 175, which is too fast for me to comfortably run. But I was watching something like 2 days ago that said that you're never going to get fast unless you're running at like 175 to 180 BPM, and you should train running at whatever speed you're doing with that cadence, basically dancing to faster music, because that way you're not stretching your legs out so much and putting so much impact on your legs, which will slow you down and hurt your feet. And lately that's what I've been getting. So it's kind of like I saw this video and I was like, oh, I should have been running at modern drum and bass speed, which is perfect because the music all sounds wrong when I slow down my drum and bass for my running. So yeah, I've had a few epiphanies like that, including one yesterday. I really, there's so many small things, like everything from how I keep my cadence by listening to music and the apps I use for that, the running apps that I use, the camera that I take, the clothes that I wear. Every little detail has been some sort of terrible mistake. I mean, all the way up to getting kidney stones. Running in summer, running in winter, running seriously, running casually. I'm going to do a series just about my personal journey with running. I'm not going to do it as part of this, but if you're ever interested just in picking it up, it is honestly the easiest hobby in the world. It's literally, cost nothing. Everybody can do it naturally. Well, everybody, most people can do it in one way or another. I mean, even if you can't walk or run, you can still, they still have versions of it for people who are, wheelchair bound or, so on. So it's a great hobby, and I will probably do a series on it. I was making notes today, and as I was making notes of topics that I'd cover in like a 10-minute video, I had like 20 points, each one of which I could talk about for like 20 minutes, honestly. So I think it's going to be like a video series. So look out that. Anyway, yeah, Dan, I saw the image of you hiking. That was pretty awesome. I'm going to speed up saying hello to everybody. We want show, says Sadiq. I am here. Hopefully you're hearing this. I haven't even checked if the audio is working. The audio last night on 2.5 Voyages, it is a feature of the show. It turns out it really, I was giving Victor a hard time, as I always do, trying to connect, but it seems like genuinely there is a problem with StreamYard at the moment. Squirrels definitely happening right now, where, something's genuinely broken. And if you switch the background, which I never do, but Victor does, and apparently that was causing the audio to be absolutely insane last night until we got the show going. So it was kind of funny. Anyway, it was great to talk to Scott and Victor again. Really felt like an OG reunion last night. Yeah, we'll talk about the earthquake that was supposed to happen and whatnot. But yeah, great fun show. You can check it out. It was on this channel. You can watch the recording if you missed it. But yeah, what else? Who else we got in here? Just going through to say hello to people. We've got Jane Motts made it in. Great to have you in here, Jane Motts. And yeah, great to see you regularly now, pretty much on all the streams. And I do see and appreciate your participation. It's always great. Love the comments and all the feedback and everything. So that is great. Oh, I'm missing something. How strict is Japanese malpractice procedures against doctors in Japan? I'm not an expert on it. I get the impression no, not that strict, but I don't know. I think, you know, you don't hear a lot about doctor accountability. There are some famous medical scandals in Japan which involved accountability, but they were notable because they were rare. Deer and elk, no bears. Glad to hear that. Oh yeah, Dan H. You should link to me to the Shiseido new hair transplant treatment. So Shiseido was talking about using the IPS cells, that were the stem cell treatment for hair thing, which I was like, like 2014. I was like, they said that would be out by 2018, and I promised my son. He said, "You got to get that, Dad," and I said, "Sure, I'll get it." My dad used to bother my son a little bit when I was younger, when he was younger. But it never came through. But okay, one JP client wants people to know in one be doing it. Okay, so Shiseido's doing hair transplants. It sounds like to me everybody's going to Turkey. I mean, I know that with Turkey, you hear good and bad about the medical care there, but it seems to be the place to go for hair transplants. I'm pretty comfortable, honestly. I've got a pretty awesome shaped head. I get compliments on it. I've got a scar, actually. Where is it? It's up on this side that occasionally you can sort of make out. In fact, you can see it on that angle there. It's a subdermal scar from when I had chicken pox as a teenager. But other than that, I think I do okay. I mean, thank heavens to all the action stars who made it okay to lose hair a little bit. But yeah. Anyway, I'm hearing that's bananas. What's bananas? Oh, anyway, I'm not going to get too distracted. Let's keep saying hello to everybody. But yeah, if you're looking at hair treatment in Japan, I've not heard of hair treatment in Japan being a good thing. And plus, I mean, transplants don't work with blonde people because we have different colored hair in all different places. And that's all I'm going to say on that matter. Who else we got in here? We've got Tadom in it. Great to have you in here as usual. Thank you for being the last person to vote and voting for the correct track, voting for my track for the MASH battle. That was awesome. Sadiq, we've got Sadiq. I think I've already said hello to Sadiq, but saying hello to you again. Aaron, glad that you made it in from Michigan. Okay, you're traveling around. I don't know if the weather's going to be better or worse in Michigan, but yeah, great to have you in here. And as always, great to have you moderating the video and reminding everybody to like the video, because remember, these videos are not monetized. I just do it for the likes. So yeah, I think talking about the video there, that was definitely it. And exactly, it's always about just keep having fun. And but I do like that it pushes us to do things a little bit better. OnlyFans, no, I think we're having top fans. That's what YouTube's calling it. Let's not start that topic again. I quite agree. Elminox, great day. Not a top fan. That makes you, if that makes you happy. Casual visitor to believe in yourself. Hey, all people welcome. And like I said, I think that the fan ranking thing is honestly kind of bullshit. You are all, I don't know if you're all top fans. It's cliched, but you literally are. In fact, I actually, you know, if I have any favoritism, it's actually to the new people or to the people who normally lurk, who just drop a comment in when they don't normally. Like, that's actually really exciting. Although, of course, I appreciate the people in here who I recognize every week, but that is pretty cool. I'm going to get into the topic soon. We're 15 minutes into this, but I'm going to keep saying hello to people if there's anyone else here. Scrolling down. Am I missing anybody? Scott surfs. No, I don't know if Scott surfs or not. He seems like the type that would. But there again, he's from Florida. And Florida, I think I saw something saying that there is like some very, very small amount of surfing in Florida. But I imagine most of the surfing would consist of swimming very fast away from alligators. At least my understanding from Australia, where they have saltwater crocodiles and everything. But yeah, I think we got everybody. We got boom all the way down the bottom there. I'm going to take away the full screen down the bottom. It is kind of nice to actually preserve the chat on the stream, but if I did it that way, I really should move the the arrangement of the screen around, isn't it? Because I've also got the topics, which I'm going to be talking about on the right-hand side of the screen. In fact, it kind of makes sense, actually, if I just had that part of the screen like blacked out or something like that. What if I remove that? Can I add it back? Oh, that's pretty cool. Like, so for the intro, I could do this where you could at least see everything, and then I could go into the topics. That'd be pretty cool. Less surfing in Florida, mainly West Coast. Yes, I know it exists. I remember I've heard it. In fact, Kelly Slater, the world's greatest surfer, Floridian, and learned how to surf in Florida. I guess, you know, there's that thing about surfing in a place where it's a bit more challenging, makes you better when you get to where there's really good surf. But there are like some famous men's and women's champions, world champions who are from Florida. So yeah, maybe unrested is as well, but it's not something that you hear about as much anyway. I am going happy 4th of July, everybody. For those of you in America, I guess you're past that now. You're into the 5th of July. In fact, no, you're into the 6th of July. So maybe I'm missing something there, but I guess it's Independence Day long weekend in America. So enjoy that, Americans. Enjoy your War of Treasonous Secession anniversary. Sorry that we can't play cricket with you or be part of the Commonwealth together, but there we go. Thank you for encouraging everybody else to speak English, making it easy for the rest of the British Empire, even though technically we lost the war. So that said, topics that we've got tonight. Big topics, big things happening in Japan. I want to go have a word with Langley Esquire because I was watching his stream again on Japanese sort of political insights actually just this evening, and he was saying again how the yen was 160 yen last week and then it crashed to 145, which is like a huge deal. And I went and checked and the yen hasn't changed. So I'm going to go leave a comment saying, what are you smoking and can I have some? Because it's, you know, whatever he's smoking, it's somehow in his own mind making the currency change, which do I want some of that? Maybe not really. If it goes higher, then I get more money technically, but then I'm poorer overseas. It's complicated. But we do have the election coming up. We have the deadline coming up for Trump. Trump says, Japan, do a deal or we're going to drop the bomb on you. Well, actually, you know, he even talked about Hiroshima and stuff like that here. We're doing that July 9, Wednesday this week is the deadline for Japan to do a deal with America. Japan's done deals with America. Japan already has trade treaties in place. But going all gangster and, you know, saying, I have changed the deal, pray I do not change it further, you know, as Darth Vader said to Lando Calrissian in Bespin Cloud City. And that would still be too complimentary to the US administration right now. So we'll see what happens this week with negotiations. We have the upper house elections coming up. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, the Japanese elections. I know you don't find it that interesting, but it is kind of a big deal. And it's interesting in the sense that this election campaign has only been going officially for a couple of days. Japan, the election cycle, the election is on like, when is it? It's on like the 10th, I think. I'll double check this, but the election campaigning period started on the 4th. Yeah, so it's literally, you only have 1 week. You think of how long we have to suffer through the American election cycle. 350 million people, for some reason, need 18 months of nonstop like electioneering. In Japan, 125 million people, so, you know, half the population of America. We get it all done in a week. You know, what's interesting about this cycle, there isn't really much interesting about the main parties, but what is interesting is how much more vocal the racist parties and the fringe parties that are now getting seats are and how much attention they're getting. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So let's dive into the topics anyway. The squirrels took it way behind a cloud. What happened to the blue sky feed? I'm putting it back, but I just, in order to show the comments in the captured live stream, I just turned that off for a moment. And I am putting it back and boom, let's go through the topics that we have. So what are the topics that we have? We have, yeah, go check out the Oops, I Did It Again mashup, where I did not only a music mashup, but also a video mashup. Yeah, the American election cycle, just when you think it's over, it's literally like, you know, for every 4 years, you spend like half of the time in America going through elections. It's just crazy. Yeah. And you know, especially with the outcomes and so on. So yeah, go check out the video. Some extra effort in the video this week, and it was a lot of fun. And I do recommend go check that out. So I told you about this crazy shenanigans. So we've got the NHK party. It's ironic they're called the NHK party. They are actually the party to defend the Japanese people against the NHK party. And you know, basically far right. I mean, there are a couple of stories. There's a story about that guy as well. The most racist really is got sort of San Seito, and they have seats, and they look like they're going to win more seats. But the Conservative Party of Japan, this guy, is it Naoki Hyakuta, who's like a conservative author, and Abe put in charge, like chairman of the NHK for a time. Yeah, he's like writing, you know, basically they're now stump speaking and trying to get votes as the one that's tough on foreigners. And I suppose to the extent that foreigners have gone from being 300,000 people per year to being 36 million per year, at least in terms of tourists. And look, there are no real problems. I mean, the Mario Karts was about as bad as problems with foreigners have gotten in Japan. There is a lot of far right-wing focus on the Kurdish refugees in Kawaguchi. And honestly, even the local government says it's all kind of fake news, but it's kind of something that the social media boards are staying on. But other than that, there really have been shockingly few problems with foreigners in Japan, both the increased number of residents and all the tourists. But yet some people are just saying, like, for example, the head of the NHK party saying, you know, admit it, he literally said this, when you see Middle Eastern people and African people in parks, you know, I know you're not supposed to say this, but I feel scared. You know, and I know that this is actually more of a problem in most other countries, but the fact is 26 years I've been in Japan. And as much as there are idiots, in fact, even famous Japanese like politicians who comment on American, you know, race problems and so on, they've never actually said you should treat with, you know, fear and suspicion people within your own communities like this before. Or if they do, they'll do it basically against China, and that's more as a political thing. But yeah, we've got the leader of the Conservative Party. He sort of said, for example, for Muslim people who do not allow cremation, you have to be buried whole, I believe is the custom. And this is a problem because, you know, there are very few places in Japan where basically Buddhists are normally cremated. And everyone in Japan does Buddhist funerals. They do Shinto births. You go take your child up to the Shinto shrine when they're born. You get married at a Christian church, and you die in a Buddhist temple. And they cremate you. And there's a thing where there are places in the main island, but there was a big problem that in Kyushu, you know, the second most populated island in Japan, there was no place where Muslims could bury people, and where they got permission to make a cemetery, you know, there was a lot of opposition from people who felt it was like weird to not, you know, cremate a body. And some politicians said, we don't want you and your foreign ways in Japan. And again, as a stump speech, the head of the Conservative Party of Japan said, which is, by the way, not a mainstream party, but they're kind of a fringe, you know, far right of the LDP. If you come to Japan, it's only natural to follow Japanese rules and manners. When in Rome, do as Romans do, which is kind of fine, but this is like a religious like thing. So yeah, problems. And the Prime Minister responded, feelings cannot be solved by hate or slander. We must be considerate of people's feelings. I mean, you know, just the idea that we think it is, you know, if you come to Japan, it's one thing to say come to Japan and follow the rules. But, you know, the rules that you have to be like cremated, or that you have to discard your religion to live in Japan is, you know, that's the kind of definition of prejudiced speech. And that's pretty much what that is. And there is more of that than what's been happening, even though, thank heavens, it's not from mainstream parties. But these non-mainstream parties are getting a couple of seats nowadays. And it is a thing about the Japanese, about the Japanese system, because it has proportional representation, that, you know, you don't have to get a lot of votes. Even if you can't win a seat anywhere, if your party gets X number of votes, you will get allocated, you'll have seats given to you, which you can just fill with people from your party list. This is actually how most European democracies also have versions of proportional representation like Japan. And it's good that it means lots of parties get represented, but it's bad when those parties involve drooling right-wing racist maniacs, as is seemingly the case with some of the parties now coming into parliament and openly expressing views like that, language. For all the crazy people in Japan's parliament, this sort of stuff is new. In terms of the parties running in the election, there's a summary from the Mainichi. There is a thing where, again, most elections that you have in Europe or New Zealand or Australia, even America, they put out manifestos. Hey, Yuri the best. Great to have you in the comments. They'll put out some list of like booklets of their policies from all sort of, here's what we're going to do with immigration, here's what we're going to do with defense, and there'll be pages of ideas and proposals of how each party is going to run the government in detail, because in most democracies, the elected people who are elected actually decide what the government should do, whereas in Japan, it's mainly the bureaucrats who decide what happens, and the elected ministers just sort of take turns sitting on top of the ministry and directing some of the money somehow towards the people who voted for them. So the parties in Japan, because they expect the bureaucracy to just run on autopilot by itself, and they don't want to upset the bureaucracy by telling them what to do. Think about Yes Minister, where Sir Humphrey doesn't even pretend to be like operating under orders or controlling the ministers. It's like the system in Japan is you just accept that the government runs itself. So they don't they have very, very few policies to actually choose from. It's a lot of vibes involved. So the current government is going to give $140 in cash to everybody. Vote by literally free money, and they do this ahead of most elections. They pledge to raise wages by about $8,000 by fiscal 2030. That sounds better. Don't know how they're going to do that. They're going to secure extra budget, which I guess means issuing more debt to be able to protect people from US tariffs. And they are going to increase the transparency of political funds, where they are famous, of course, for the ones being the source of the problem of political funds. So, saying that they're going to be slightly less corrupt is one of their 4 things that they're running on. I mean, again, literally punching themselves in the face, stupid. We're going to give you money. I mean, you think about it. We're going to bribe you, and we're going to be more transparent about how we're corrupt with money. All I can think of is in terms of like corruption, and I don't know that. Hey, if you're going to look the other way on our people, using slush funds and handing out money from Benkyōkai and so on to each other. If you look the other way, we'll give you $140. What do you say? It seems to be the main theme of the Liberal Democratic Party. The biggest opposition party, the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, is saying that they are going to cut the 8%. They're going to cut consumption tax on food to 0. Remember, it's actually noted the current lead of the Constitutional Democratic Party was actually more for increasing the consumption tax. And this is why he lost the election than Abe was. He was more pro-Ministry of Finance, and this was when he had promised to cut taxes, and he reversed all of that, so no one trusted him on that. They also said that they are also going to provide the exact same amount of money to everybody as the LDP. They're not even going to add like $5. They should say like they're going to provide 20,500 yen. They should do something to try to increase the amount, but they are promising to just hand out the same amount of money as the LDP, I suppose. And where's the bidding war for us? If you're going to bribe us, at least compete. They are going to allow people to have separate surnames and make same-sex marriage equal. Right now in Japan, 90% of municipalities already recognize same-sex marriage, and the separate surnames thing is overwhelmingly popular, and it's only a few. It is something that distinguishes them from the LDP, mainly because even though the majority of the LDP and the majority of the Japanese public support allowing people to have separate surnames who are married, it's only like a small fringe part of the LDP is completely vetoing the ability to legislate that, which is basically holding everything up. So looking to exploit that. Oh God, they're going to renegotiate the status of forces agreement with the US and stop the relocation of the US Marines within Okinawa. So that's what got them kicked out back in 2011. And they say that they're going to ban donations from companies and organizations, which I'll believe it when I see it. But there we go. That sort of is aiming at companies, the LDP, and organizations is Komeito, which is, of course, the political wing of the Soka Gakkai organization, which is Japan's largest lay Buddhist religious group. Some would say a little bit, well, they worship a person who claims to sort of have a channel. Who, yeah, it's complicated. SG is complicated. And of course, Cormato denies that it has any affiliation with them, even though their headquarters is right beside the headquarters of the group, and everybody is told that they vote for it. They are also going to give exactly the same. Everyone's going to give $140. Seriously, whoever gives $141 is going to win the election. They're the coalition partner with the government, so they're just going to agree with them. And basically, they're not going to be able to achieve any of this. The Japan Innovation Party, which is the Osaka First Party, is going to cut the same thing. They're going to cut the consumption rate on food, tax rate on food to 0, but only for 2 years. In fact, the CDP is only doing it for 1 year. I mean, does that really make it easier, making the businesses take it off and then put it back on again? I'm not sure how meaningful that is. And they are going to make education from preschool to high school free, regardless of income, although apparently while cutting taxes. So that is the Osaka Party. The Democratic Party for the People is going to raise the income tax threshold. They're going to basically increase the tax bands and cut the consumption tax rate to 5% until real wage growth is achieved. But again, good luck fighting the Ministry of Finance on that. The Communist Party is actually cutting consumption tax to 5% and will eventually get rid of it. So yes, and will stop spending money on US troops and defense. Ain't no party like a Communist Party. They don't mention any of the fringe parties, Sanseito, NHK Party, and the Conservative Party, because honestly, they are in the margin of error. But for the major parties, I mean, this is literally the extent that, and this is why you only really need a week for the election, because that's all in terms of the issues that they're talking about, and they all agree on they're going to give the same amount of money to everybody. It's kind of weird, isn't it? So yeah, Gangster Party. Hair transplants in Turkey are such a big market that in Europe, Turkish airlines are known as Turkish Airlines. Thank you, Elmanox. You just made my evening with that. That is funny. Jane Mods, isn't that like saying we're going to be giving you free money and we'll be bad guys, but in a more transparent way? That's exactly what it is. In fact, hey, we promise that we're going to stop bribing people. And if you're okay with that, let me slip you $140. That is what they are saying. So how are you supposed to do that? Opposite way around in Greece, by the way, cremation has been allowed for some time now, despite it not being in accordance with the Orthodox Church, I guess, is how that sentence was going to change. But at the same time, sure, people, racists everywhere don't like it. And religion is one of those things that particularly triggers that. So there we go. Turkish Airlines. That's the first I've heard of it. Eric Bailey's voting for the Bull Moose Party. So there we go. The Tokyo Beats Party, all of that stuff. Other stuff that's happening. The Korean president, the new president who basically impeached the former president of Korea over being too friendly to Japan and promising to undo all the deals done with Japan and to kick Japan's ass, basically as part of his election campaign, is coming to Japan. And he's stressing, hey, we want to cooperate with you guys. But I don't know. He's either going to come over here and deliver exactly what he said he was going to deliver, which is a whole bunch of pain and angst between Japan and Korea relations again, which I really don't want to see. Or he's going to surprise everybody, which can actually happen. Like Abe did this, surprised everybody by doing a deal with South Korea and being conciliatory. Like it's actually sometimes when you create the expectation that you're going to be the person who ruins everything, that things actually, that you actually have the leeway to actually be the one to solve things. So I'm really hopeful that he turns out not to be the anti-Japanese maniac that he has appeared to be so far, and that because if Japan can keep consistently good relations with both the left and right wing parties that come into power in Korea, then that is how you finally end it. Because at the moment, political relations with Japan and South Korea are a political issue. The left wing always torpedoes relations with Japan, and the right wing party always builds them up again, and Japan's just always sort of honestly the same, and is just subject to the swings of the other country. So it'd be really great if Korea could stabilize. And Japan, of course, has to be doing the right thing, which I think it's trying to do at least. And if there's anything to be worked out, so long as there's a sincere desire to actually work things out, then anything's possible. It would be great if this goes well. So fingers crossed, but also not holding my breath on that particular one. Avoid theft. Glad that you can make it. I said I'd do so last week. Hey, I didn't expect a live stream today after the 2.5 Voyages yesterday. Hey, the Tokyo Tonight party, don't stop to continue the party theme. Yeah, this is my Sunday night. It's part of the reason that we did that on a Saturday. If we'd done it on a Sunday, I wouldn't have done Tokyo Tonight because this is my Tokyo Tonight time. But since we did it on a Saturday, I am here. So good to have you in the chat, Void Theft, and appreciate your participation. We talked a lot of talk last week and this week that yesterday was supposed to be the day predicted by a manga that apparently caused everybody in Hong Kong to cancel their travel plans to Japan, which means that if you ever wanted to actually go to Kyoto, probably yesterday was the best day in the last 5 or 6 years to go, because so many people were freaked out and canceled their Japan trips over this 20-30-year-old manga that predicted that there would be a massive earthquake in Japan yesterday. And that said, when there actually have been a whole bunch, 1,000 earthquakes a day in one little island of Kyushu, which sounds to me like it might even be like a volcano or something, or a big earthquake coming. But here we go. The number of quakes in the Tokara chain, which is south of Kyushu, has exceeded 1,300 since June 21, including some bigger ones. So everybody's preparing to evacuate there. However, the Japanese Earthquake and Weather Agency, they're the same thing in Japan, the earthquake and weather. That's how much we have earthquakes in Japan. Japan's weather agency said an earthquake that rattled the small islands is in no way connected to a manga author's disaster prediction that went viral on social media and affected inbound tourism. It's absolutely a coincidence. There is no causal connection between the manga and the earthquakes that we are currently having happening. This whole thing about this is a baseless rumor. And again, I mean, are they invested in selling this manga? It's kind of like, it's literally like saying that, Trump winning the election, has nothing to do with Home Alone or whatever it was, or they're literally, the weather agency is out there denying the content of a 30-year-old manga, accurately predicting the current weather. And it's like they have to clarify that explicitly, which just makes you think, well, how seriously are you taking this? So that is the thing that happened this week, even though there were indeed earthquakes. Hey, BDBGP, great to have you in here. Salutations right back to you. And Eric Bailey. Throughout its entire history, the only question about Korea is who is invading them now. Sometimes it's China, sometimes it's the Mongolians, sometimes it's Japan. Let's see whose turn it is next. I mean, Japan's whole excuse that the 1904 invasion and 1910 annexation, I believe it was to save, literally the reason that Japan invaded Korea was to save them from being invaded by the Russians. And they expected to be appreciated for it. That was an interesting time, though. That was when Russia was moving down the Pacific coast, and it did look like there was a theoretical possibility. But of course, since, literally saving is like saving someone from being kidnapped by kidnapping them first and saying, why don't you appreciate me? I saved you from being kidnapped by that other person who didn't actually kidnap you because I kidnapped you first, is literally how Japan... People who try to justify the Japanese colonialization on the Korean Peninsula, they say that. But you're right, Russia's the one that hasn't had the turn yet, Eric Bailey. So, but there again, I don't think Russia would ever actually go so far as to not recognizing the sovereignty of a neighbor or looking to change borders, right? That said, they've probably got their hands full, and this is all the more reason Korea should probably be helping to, keep the Ukrainians fighting, because honestly, they're the only thing stopping Russia from marching into a bunch of other countries at the moment. So anyway, the American president repeatedly, apart from emphasizing the deadline that Japan has for making a deal, I mean, this is literally like old-fashioned Godfather movie type extortion, that Japan has to do a deal with them by July 9th or else. Trump repeatedly saying that Japan doesn't even buy rice from America. Japan does buy rice from America. It is tariffed, but right now Japanese rice is so completely mismanaged and overpriced that for the last few months, American rice has actually been bought in huge volumes. The Japanese government has always bought American rice, among other imported rice, to keep stockpiles full. But lately, even private companies are importing American rice because even with tariffs, it's cheaper than domestic rice right now. So on the one hand, Ishiba is like, yes, we're going to make sure that this point is clearly understood, that we have been importing rice from California, and the US should understand that we are doing our part and we don't need to make any concessions regarding rice, he was saying to rice growers. But that said, I mean, America does have a slight point there that Japan's only literally started buying American rice within the last couple of months, literally because it's so badly mismanaged the growth of its own rice. And there are, for all the things where America says that tariffs keep US products out of Japan and they're unfair, it turns out the biggest tariff against like US products like cars is just that they're crap and people don't want them. But with rice and so on, there are genuinely tariffs. So there is kind of a legitimate complaint there, but they are doing it. But, in the end of the day, thinking that they're going to solve the whole problem by convincing the US president that he was wrong about something that he said, I don't know that that's a winning strategy. I don't see that Japan's going to do a deal like I said, I think Japan is looking at this whole thing like bad weather that they're waiting to have blow over, but we're going to have the first big gust of wind, I guess, this week. We'll see how this goes. But convincing them that they're wrong on the technicalities, I mean, this is, the US president who on his first meeting with Abe said that he hadn't forgotten about Pearl Harbor and still talks about, basically uses 1980s trade talk terms talking about Japan. So we'll see. I mean, fact is, America just doesn't want to be doing trade with the rest of the world. Again, I continue to say the world is better with America in it, but there again, it's up to Americans whether you want to be part of the world or not. And Americans voted, and both parties kind of ran on isolationist platforms. But there again, this whole thing about America isolating itself more from a trade perspective, I mean, it is legit. If they want to bring back all the manufacturing jobs, I mean, they have to do this to some extent. The rice thing, there is actually a kind of quasi-legitimate argument. Yeah, we'll see what happens there anyway. Yes, the NHK party I just mentioned before, this guy is a clown, but they do have seats in parliament. But saying that, black and Muslim groups in Japan are scary. It's kind of sad to see. This is sort of thing. I've been here 26 years and you haven't heard any people saying this like this directly. But yes, the election thing is saying, and it's, when Muslim and black people hang out in front of train stations, it's scary. Well, where are they supposed to, literally when they're meeting their friends or something? Yeah, I'm racist and I find people who look different to be scary. In fact, look at this. He literally said this. 6 years ago, he was afraid of debt collectors for NHK. He was afraid of NHK fee collectors. But recently, I am afraid of foreigners. You might not feel as much fear with white people. This may be considered discrimination. Oh, God. Oh, God. I mean, this guy's a complete clown. I mean, this is a guy who supports Russia, for example. This is a guy who actually said that they should literally about having a Logan's Run style, getting rid of old people like through euthanasia when they get to a certain point, and that women shouldn't be allowed to have jobs and should be forced to marry. He said all sorts of crazy stuff. So this is not a mainstream politician, as you may have guessed by his tie. But it's a shame to see this kind of thing, which again, for all the problems that Japan has, I mean, he can't even go into Jane Motts. He can't even go into a convenience store, pretty much, if this is the case. And what are you supposed to do? If NATO calls Trump daddy, will Japan call him Otocha? Well, I mean, Abe was pretty close to doing that. Ishiba's kind of got this streak where he just likes to piss people off, which he did within his own party quite a lot. I think Ishiba's just going to avoid him, but certainly I think different leaders at different times would probably say something like Oto-chan or sugar daddy or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know. He's scared of how black people look. Dude, look at yourself. I mean, I'd say anyone who's, startled by, who suffers from the inverse of color blindness should be rightfully terrified of this man. Japan still kills Wales. Wales, I think Wales is currently in Japan and they're playing Japan at rugby. Wales is the first ever top tier rugby team that it ever beat. However, Japan right now is ranked 13th in the world and Wales is ranked 12th in the world. But Wales has come out to Japan. They're playing 2 games. Yes, there is a Lions tour, which is an all-stars team of Scotland, Ireland, England, and Wales. However, Wales is such utter crap at the moment at rugby, among other things, that they only have 2 players out of their 30-person squad who actually made the all-stars team. So they pretty much are a full-strength team. And they are in Japan dealing with the heat and everything else. But Japan beat them 24-19. In Fukuoka yesterday, and if they beat them one more time, then Wales, which is traditionally, I mean, back in the day, they were top country in the world for rugby. They were like the All Blacks' main rival back in the day, New Zealand's main rival. Japan could be putting them out of the automatic selection tier in the World Cup. They're going to have a real tough time. So great for Japan anyway, and Japan played a fantastic game, and it's really great to see Japan kicking ass of big, white people who think that they can beat Japan just because they're taller, which they're not really so much taller anymore. Kind of sad to see Wales like turn into such crap at rugby, but that's a story that's happened from a long time ago. Anyway, great victory by the Japanese rugby team. Whaling, you could say, but there we go. I remember actually, I mean, Wales seriously, after once being New Zealand's best rival that we would get most excited about, they're so prone to losing. There was I remember there was a game in Auckland where a plane flew over the stadium with the sign which was advertising the Globe pub, which is a sort of a student bar. It's near the university, and where we'd hang out, the Globe, and it was even Wales could score at the Globe. Oh yes. New Zealand, we don't have very much to do with our time. We hire an airplane to say that girls are so easier. It's easier to pick up girls at our pub than it is for Wales to score points in a rugby game. And everybody thought that was money well spent. That is New Zealand. That's where I come from. And how bad Wales has become at rugby. Would love you guys to get better. Interesting, the Japanese emperor, you don't hear a lot about World War II history in the news, but that said, the Japanese emperor has made a point that he's kind of a sponsor for groups associated with POW groups and remembering the suffering of Japanese victims during World War II. And he sort of said he's quasi-acknowledges the fact that people died, all these people died in World War II in the name of the emperor. He feels a responsibility to remember the sort of victims of the Japanese victims of World War II who suffered, in the name of kind of an out of control Japanese government that sent people away for this. And he commemorates sort of forgotten things like the sinking of transport ships filled with children and so on. The treatment of the 500,000 Japanese prisoners of war who were sent to Siberia and stayed there for 20 years, and a high percentage of them died. I mean, we talk a lot about, of course, how Japanese treated prisoners of war themselves and the low survival rates in Japanese custody. The survival rates of Japanese and Russian custody was pretty similar. And while a lot of people in Japan know about the 575 Japanese POWs, some of whom stayed as forced laborers in Siberia until the 1960s. The Soviets donated 12 to 14,000 of those POWs to Mongolia, and Mongolia used them as forced labor, including for building apparently the government buildings in Ulaanbaatar, in the capital of Mongolia. And apparently of the 12,000 or so people that were sent, 1,700 of them died there. So that said, people would say, "Well, I feel sorry for them," but at the same time, I mean, it's not the fault of the conscripted soldiers that the war happened, and they're people just like other people, and they suffered. And people, I mean, I didn't even hear about the POWs and that were forced into labor and had these and died like this in Mongolia. Japan has fantastic relations with Mongolia, by the way. Japan considers that its history, at least of the Yamato Japanese, comes from Mongolia. And you know, with sumo and other things, there's a lot of very positive ties. But there is this thing that yeah, and the fact that it's the emperor who goes around and sponsors the you know the memorials of these things and the families remembering this, and these are forgotten things otherwise. It's pretty cool and good for him anyway. Jane Motts, have I ever watched the anime Grave of the Fireflies? It's set during World War II in Japan, and it's very emotive. I feel like I have, although I feel like it would be like 30 years ago. So yeah, I don't remember it. But yeah, it's one thing. It's actually when you're outside of Japan, all you think about in association with Japan is the war. It's all that, you know, people talk about in UK or New Zealand or whatever. But you come to Japan and it really isn't really talked about. And I guess that these older anime that were closer to it would do stuff like that. So yeah, maybe I should watch that actually. You have watched Grave of the Fireflies. Isn't it about the aftermath of World War II? In fact, maybe I haven't watched. I'm just thinking. Eric Bailey. Oh dear, yeah, that movie kills you just remembering it. I mean, there are a few movies about it, but you know, you don't see a lot of movies about World War II in Japan. So yeah, maybe I should watch that. Anyway, thank you for the recommendation. Carrying on. If you carry mobile charger batteries, which I definitely do, because if you want to watch a movie on a plane, I mean, nothing worse than you want to watch your iPad or your plane and you run out of battery. And even though planes have USB chargers, I find that they barely keep up. They slow down the decline, but they don't like charge up. They're so weak. I mean, of course, the plane is, you know, the last thing I suppose you want is the planes being full of lithium batteries. Remember when the ANA 787 had the lithium batteries of the plane caught on fire on the very first flight? So I suppose maybe that's a reason that the planes have limited power supply in the planes. But basically, the only way you can be sure of watching your own movies or having your own devices working through the whole flight is, of course, I carry lithium batteries. Some other people pointing out in the comments responding to this post as well that if you are carrying camera equipment and you have all the camera lithium batteries or whatever, the requirement is now that you cannot stow it in checked-in baggage. And even with carry-on baggage, you can no longer put it in the overhead compartment because apparently there was a fire in a Korean airline, I think, where the fire happened in baggage that was stored in the overhead bag. So you in Japan, apparently ANA and Japan Airlines and other airlines in Japan are going to require you to keep it on your person or at least at your feet during the flight. So you can have you're going to need to go onto the plane with all of your lithium batteries on you, which is going to be, yeah, there's going to be a problem. Apparently there was a fire that broke out in an airline as it was preparing to take off, and the fire was traced to someone's bag, which was in the overhead compartment. So that is a change that is happening. That is a little bit of a pain. Yeah, 1,000 earthquakes in 2 weeks. Okay, not in a day, but certainly they are debating evacuating. I don't know that you could really debate evacuating if there are 1,000. You're lucky you're getting a decent warning for a quake. So I do hope that the people on the Tokara Islands do get the hell out of there till things are better. Dan H, your grandfather and great-grandfather hated you for learning Japanese due to their experience in Burma and Singapore, the saddest day in the empire's history. Interesting, though. I mean, were they in Burma during the war there and Singapore, I suppose? I mean, again, those are, if they have direct experience of that, yeah, I remember an uncle or a granduncle that you could say in Australia saying to me when I was going off to Japan. It's kind of funny how people from the British Empire, they claim to be, have reason-based, prejudice against Japan, but they frame it in terms of racism against all Asians. Like I was asked if I was going up to live with the slit eyes at one point, which is, just basically, I mean, it's kind of, it's incredibly ignorant and racist, but at the same time, it's like literally just being prejudiced against anyone not white, which is kind of fitting. But there again, if you've actually had something go wrong, I for example, had a grand aunt, different side of the family, who refused to ever buy anything German, and everyone else around her, had no problem. And my dad, owned a BMW and all that sort of thing. And she never had a problem with anybody else doing as they saw fit. It was just her personal thing that she just refused to ever buy anything German. And, she carried that through like 80 years. And yeah, certainly I think you're entitled to have your views on that. But, sounds like that if they actually experienced the Japanese invasion of Burma and Singapore, they'd probably have reasons to be traumatized. I mean, I got salmonella from peanut butter, and I couldn't deal with peanut butter for like, I am now eating peanut butter again, but it took like 10 years before I could. And I would say being invaded by the Japanese is probably at least 3 times worse than eating peanut butter with salmonella in it. So I would say they'd be fairly justified holding a grudge the rest of their lives, because I could certainly hold it. If I could hold a grudge against peanut butter for 10 years, I'm pretty sure they could be quite fairly and understandably maintain a grudge, possibly for multiple generations. So there we go. What else have we got in here? We've got we've got 3 minutes. Okay, speed run. Capsule hotels. I know capsule hotels seem cool. They seem like a science fiction space station. I'm going to live in a cool futuristic box. It's super compact, like Japanese are super efficient. It's going to be really high tech. And when I first came to Japan, I wanted to go to a capsule hotel, and everyone said, no, don't do it. It's full of drunk, shouting, fighting people, throwing up on themselves. And, like you step out, they are the capsule hotels used to be the cheapest form of kind of slum for salarymen who are too drunk to make it onto the trains to go home, or to stay standing up and conscious until morning. Their co-workers would put them into these capsule hotels because they didn't want to spend any money, and they were literally a dumping ground for the violently sick, aggressive and overly drunk salary people. And I knew some co-workers who were Japanese who had stayed in them and swore there was absolutely horrific experiences, probably not like Burma or my peanut butter experience, but pretty close. And as a result, they told me never go to these things. I heard enough horror stories about capsule hotels. But that said, all these tourists now, they want the image of capsule hotels that they have from the, whoa, Aaron's got to go, boat ride. Enjoy the boat ride and have a great time in Michigan. Have a great week and happy Independence Day and all that stuff. I'm going to quickly go up. But yes, they are making like legit like anime futuristic science fiction type capsule hotels that seem to be quasi decent, but still I'm good. I don't need to do that. The flaw of the 2.5 Voyages last night was that the world did not end apparently as it was supposed to be. So that is a thing that happened. 10 dangerous things you shouldn't do in Japan. They've gone back to the old what do they call it? The old format of just coming up with 10 ideas and writing a blog. And they are actually pretty compelling. Don't climb Mount Fuji in the off season. You will die. People do all the time. It's super annoying. Don't follow solicitors on the street. As a registered solicitor myself, I'm a solicitor with the bar in New Zealand. I think they mean touts rather than solicitors. That's like a ChatGPT bad translation. Don't follow solicitors either, because we don't want you following us. But yes, don't follow people trying to lure you into bars, and don't, even without being lured, go into a rip-off bar. I mean, you should know, because they're called rip-off bars. They're not really, but botakuri bars. Just be careful, obviously, being lured into bars in places like Kabukicho where that can happen. Don't do drugs, okay? And don't visit in summer because it's ridiculous. Don't hike or ski off the trail because you'll end up like this AI person here. Don't underestimate Japan's currents. Yeah, don't underestimate currents anywhere. Don't try urban exploration, aka trespassing in abandoned buildings. But still, there are people who have been, including YouTubers that I have met, who have been arrested for doing this. You can end up in jail. Do not do it. And don't start a fight. Thank you. That seems like a good idea. And don't be unprepared for earthquakes. It's like not being unprepared for diarrhea or something like that. I mean, yes, always be ready for that. We had the battle mash. They're about to start issuing fines for people breaking the law regarding bicycles in Japan, which is everybody. I mean, they might as well just make it a bicycling fee. But that's right. Things like riding on the footpath or wearing a helmet, they're about to start issuing fines for that. That's going to be super interesting. I don't know how that's going to work. Mark Zuckerberg is setting up a super intelligent supergroup, which actually is a good idea to maybe do, but at the same time, this is the guy who named his entire company the Metaverse. So, you question if he's blessing it, is it actually a good idea like I thought it was? When I achieve my diet goals, I'm going to go and eat this 1900 calorie Yokozuna burger with 5 patties from Burger King. I mean, actually, I legit want to try this, and it has cheese and bacon in it. This actually looks really good. I don't know. Maybe if I go maybe I should go run a marathon in order to eat this. I don't know. I am tempted. There's good protein there. Maybe I do a lot of weights or something like that. Get the muscle going. We're 1 minute over. I'm going to speed up. Trump complains about Japan not importing enough rice, to which the Japanese Prime Minister said, "Don't worry, we're going to convince the American president that he was factually incorrect." And I'm sure they're going to do very well with that. Japan, now the LGBT partnership system is available to 90% of Japan's population. That is great. Kind of makes you wonder where the remaining 10% is. Japan's going to introduce carriages that have less air conditioning during the summer because some people don't like to be too cold on trains. This reminds me when bullet trains, when I first got to Japan, had smoking cars that were literally like fog of smoke. It was awful. And I would think that this would be almost as horrible, having insufficient air conditioning on the bullet train. And yes, apparently people don't want to go to onsens. Foreign tourists are not going to onsens, which means if you want to go on a domestic vacation and not be subject to foreign tourist price inflation or crowds, onsens still seem to be the place to go. Apparently people are concerned about being called out for having tattoos or not knowing the rules or not wanting to be naked in front of everybody. It's fun. You should try it. Yeah, so if you want to have something where, if you want to get away from the tourist crowds, this seems to be the thing to do, is you have to get naked and not have tattoos. Although you can get away if you've got manageable sized tattoos, which you can cover up. But seems to be the thing to do in Japan right now as a tourist anyway. So that is worth remembering. And this is super cool, actually, that a neural, now there are people who can actually literally they've set up mechanisms that basically the history of everything guy and so on, the ability now to actually from brainwaves generate speech. It's crazy that we're literally now able to have our brain transferring directly to speech and stuff like that they're through neural implants. It's super cool. Lots of other stuff here, but I am going to call it in Japan. That is Japan this week. We've got the election, I think, happening next week, so we'll talk about that next week. Again, if you're here we had 35 degrees and humid today, so it is getting hot. So stay hydrated in Japan. Take good care of yourself if you're coming here. Let me know if you're coming here as well. It's always nice to say hello to you all. Eric Bailey, would I rather be stuck in an elevator with Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Trump, or a gassy emu? Stuck in an elevator. I think in reverse order. I mean, honestly, I think Bill Gates would be interesting to talk to. And even maybe Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's an idiot, but I think you could talk to him. I'm not sure I'd want to talk to Elon or Trump or be with a gassy emu. I think that Bill Gates or Zuckerberg might be interesting. I'd probably say Bill Gates first, actually. But there we go. I'm taking that too seriously. I'm going to go over to the after party. It is set up. You can go check it out on Tokyo Digital Crew. You pick the tracks. New Zealand did not lose a war to the emu. That was the Australians. How dare you? New Zealand. I'd like to think New Zealand could handle emus better than Australia did. But Australia did totally lose. We don't have emus in New Zealand. Anyway, remember, I'll be back here next week. Follow me on Blue Sky if you want to keep up with this sort of stuff. And thank you for keeping me company this week and every week. I'm going to go do the after party where you guys pick the tracks. I'm going to set that up in just a moment. And I'm also going to pick probably one of the tracks, at least if you guys pick one that I really like, I'm going to pick that one for the next MASH battle next week. Also go check out the winning track that we just posted on Tokyo Digital Crew that I sort of put some extra effort into. I think it's pretty cool of the MASH that won the battle last week. So yeah, have a good week, everybody. Musashi Mark, everybody else, hopefully see you at the after party, and boom, see you later. Peace. Any street.